Hey, what's up? I built these cabinets and this landing for my garage, and I wanted to put in a utility sink, so I figured I'd make a concrete countertop, and I'm gonna put it right here next to this big one. I got some melamine, some remesh, and the quikcrete countertop mix. I got all this at Home Depot, so I figured to make a video. I don't know anything about concrete. I've never worked with it, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and most of them seem pretty confusing, or they use GFRC, or some plasticizer or some weird concrete that nobody knows how to get. So I figured I'll just use the quikcrete countertop mix and see how that goes. Like I said, I've never done anything with concrete before. And here's my sink I bought, a stainless steel undermount sink, which will mount under the concrete. Sleeping baby. So I'm gonna make it 1 3/4 inches thick, and it's gonna be 32 by 24 inches. So it's gonna be fairly small. So I don't think I'm gonna have a problem with it cracking. That's a lot of remesh. I'm gonna cut that down some. All right. So 32 inches by 24, and then the hole for the undermount sink is 16 by 21. So I'm gonna cut the melamine. It's 3/4 inch thick, so the form I'm gonna need to make will be 33.5 inches by 25.5 inches. All right, I cut all my melamine pieces. I haven't screwed them in yet. I just laid them on here to see what it would look like. I know I said I was gonna do it 32 inches wide by 24 inches, but that was really small. So I'm gonna go 36 inches for the length of it. And I only bought one bag of concrete. It does 0.6 cubic feet about, they say. So I redid my measurements for 36 inches, and I come up with 0.53 cubic feet of concrete. So I should be pretty good. These are 1 3/4 inches high, melamine. The center part for the sink knockout, I mitered the edges at 45, so it would be real clean edge there. But my sink has rounded edges, so if I were to cast it just like that, I would have a sharp corner, and the concrete would come out here, and it would leave this piece of sink exposed, and dirt would get in there, and it would kind of look crappy. So I'm gonna glue this up, let it dry, and then I'm gonna sand the corners down into the radius on that, I think they said is 1.5 inches. I got it wrote down somewhere. And then I'll put a 1.5 inch radius curve on here and polyurethane it and see how that does. Here's the form all done. I put a screw like every 8 inches in it. I drilled it out, countersunk it. And then the edges, I just put a little chamfer on it and sealed it with some polyurethane. So we'll see if it sticks to the concrete or not. And I think that'll look fine. Instead of going around and trying to make a circle with the sander, I don't know. I think this will look pretty good. So now I'm gonna take 100% silicone caulk and go around all the edges and seal it up. Okay, there we go. Nice bead of silicone, real thin, along the whole thing. And then I did it on the outside of the cutout. And then I cut that remesh and I laid it in there how I want it to be. They say keep it 1 inch away from all the sides and the corners. I wasn't gonna tie it together, but I've read some places that you don't need to do that. That it doesn't really do anything. You kind of just want to lay it in there. So I'm just going to keep it like that and then fill it up, and then I'll put the mesh in there. And then I have a 1.5 inch pipe that I'm going to use for the faucet. I'm just going to do a 1 hole, so I hot glued that in there. That's dry. There's a little bit of glue around there, but that shouldn't be a problem because it'll be covered by the rubber gasket or whatever comes with the faucet. All right, so I'm going to take all this mesh out. I'm going to clean the whole thing, vacuum it, and I'm going to use alcohol and rub it down, and then we'll mix up our concrete. Here we go. She's all clean. I taped up the edges to cover the screws so I can take them out when I'm done. Got my concrete. Got my 1 gallon of water. It says that all it needs. A mallet, reciprocating saw without the blade on it to beat the thing to vibrate it, and my palm sander if I need it. All right. Been mixing it for about 10 minutes, and it looks pretty good, I guess. I added 1 more pint of water. It said you could do up to 9 pints, which is 1 gallon. 1 pint. So I'm just going to pour it in there and level it all out. All right, I got a good amount in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a hammer. I definitely thought it would be a little more flowable. I don't know. It's wet, but it's kind of hard to move around. We'll see. Just going to start off with my mallet and just go around it, beat under the form. All right, wow, just a few taps with the mallet and it definitely evened out, and you can see the bubbles when I hit it rising to the top. I don't know if it's any now, but it's definitely evening out. So I'm gonna beat the crap out of this and then put the rebar in it. All right, I've been beating for about a good 15 minutes. I'm still seeing bubbles coming out, but not as many as there was. I mean, there was a ton coming out. And this stuff really got soupy once you start hitting it. It looks rough. I did find a few chunk pieces in there that were sticking out. I don't know if that's because I mixed them bad, but this one, man, that thing's hard as a rock. So I don't know if the bag got wet, but whatever. The rest seems okay. So I'm just going to put this in there and keep it 1 inch from all the edges. And I'm just going to bury it in there. And I'll do that with the rest of them. All right, there it is. Buried it in there. It wasn't all the way to the top. It was about a 1/4 inch, and I buried it like maybe 1/4, 3/8 of an inch. So it'll be 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch below the bottom of the table, and that's what they say. You want your reinforcement towards where your tensile force is, I guess. So let's see what happens when I hit it. If it surrounds, yes. You know, I don't know nothing about concrete, but that looks pretty good to me. I guess it's supposed to do that. Just burying it. Alright, now I'm going to top it off and beat it some more. Alright, you can see how it's just laying down. I topped it off and it's just laying in there. I'm going to keep beating it. I got a screed board ready, but I'm going to keep doing this. And then I'll run the screed, but I mean that's getting there, and I guess the screed board will make sure it's perfectly flat on the bottom. I feel like we're going to make a mess, but we'll see what happens. It's going good. I'm just going over it. I'll be damned if I know what this screed's doing, but it feels like it's over full. Like right there, you can see. It's just, I don't know if I'm supposed to scrape that off or what, because it's not really overflowing, but it's definitely as high as it's going to get. So I'll be damned if I know. I'm just going to keep doing this. I used almost that whole bag. 0.6 cubic feet, and I measured like 0.53. So that was close. If you're doing anything bigger, definitely get another bag. And then I'm just going to be careful around that. That held up pretty well. There's a little bit in there, but we'll see. Here's a reciprocating saw. I put it on the underside of the table, but for the video. That's what it does. I mean, some bubbles came out. I think the mallet's definitely more effective, but I gave my arm a break and I'm using this. All right, there it is. I beat it for like half an hour. Bubbles still coming out, but it says the workability's a half hour. So it is what it is. I hope that's good enough. I'm gonna put plastic over it. I don't know if the plastic's supposed to touch it. So that's why I set up these little like tent poles or whatever you want to call them. And I'll cover it with plastic and come back in a few days and see how it is. There it is. It still touched the concrete, whatever. I'm not gonna move it because it smudges it. Why are we covering it with plastic? I don't know. That's what everybody else did in their video, so that's what I'm gonna do. Here it is, been drying for 5 days. The plastic holds the moisture in, so I've been coming back every day and spraying it down twice a day and putting the plastic back on it. I guess they say the slower it cures and the wetter you keep it, the harder it'll be. The plastic did leave some marks on it, so I'm going to have to go back and sand that down. Should have popped it up off of there. Anyway, I've been taking off the tape, which comes off real easy, and pulling the screws out. And then this pops right off. This melamine, it does not stick to the melamine. So that's good. So I'll take all the rest of this off and flip it over and see what it looks like. Oh, and I threw these in here. I didn't put it on the video. I almost forgot about them. That's going to hold the brackets to help supplement the glue for the stainless steel sink. That's going to go on. It's going to be glued in, but then there's brackets they give you. So I put these studs in there to help hold it. I'll put a nut on there and hold that bracket down. And there it is. I'm satisfied with it. The little chamfer there I put turned out pretty good. Very few bug holes, as they call them. But I guess I got a lot of the air bubbles out. There's a few. Look, you can see some there. There's one. I don't know what that is. There's some more. So next up, I'm gonna sand it. My pipe thing didn't work, but let's hit that with a hammer. Oh, all right. I forgot to put tape around that metal pipe, so hopefully the faucet I buy fits in there. 1 3/8 inch, and my pipe was 1 1/2, so I think we're good. So, all right. I guess it's still drying. That's why it looks wet here and dry. This is rough. This is like smooth. I don't know. We'll see. All right, I'm gonna wet sand it with a 100 grit diamond polishing pad. That's after 100. Now I'll go to 200, 500, and 1000. All right, sanded it up to 1000 grit. It doesn't actually look better before I sanded it, I think. I don't know. It brought out a few more of these little holes, but I'm okay with that. I'm gonna seal it now with 511. And here's the finished sink and countertop. I've been using it for a couple weeks. Everything seems to be good. I like the way it came out. The edges, putting that silicone around it, made them kind of rounded. They're not sharp or anything. And the corners, so that's nice. Sanding it, I don't know if that was the best way to go. Probably would have just kept it like it was, not sand it, and just put the sealer on it. I use that 5-1 impregnator. I mean, it's really smooth, but it was smooth before I sanded it. So, I don't know. You can see there's a few blemishes in it. There's a little bug hole right there. That's okay. I probably wouldn't want something like this in my house, like my kitchen or bathrooms. I think I'd like granite or stone, not concrete. But out here in the garage, I think it works great. You see how that corner turned out? I guess that's okay. This cost me like 40 bucks to do the countertop, so I'm happy with it. This undermount sink was about 100, and undermount's definitely the way to go. And that faucet was about 100. So altogether it's like 240 bucks. And then I built this little cabinet for it, but this video is just about the concrete. So that's it. 40 bucks. Most importantly, I think she likes it.